This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining Gym. SuperTraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. I'm going to talk to you today. I'm on my 10-minute walk in Bodega Bay, California. This is my version of a quarantine. We on that quarantine. And I want to talk to you today about self-confidence. I feel that confidence is one of the biggest factors that can plague us when we're trying to overcome anxiety, depression, when we're trying to overcome our fears, when we're trying to overcome being unhealthy, when we are trying to overcome being unwealthy, when we're trying to overcome just about anything you can think of, you'll find that self-confidence plays into it big time. Even just having more confidence could help you be better at a sport. Having more confidence could help you get the mate that you want. Having more confidence can help you get the job that you want. Having more confidence, not even just more confidence, but having good self-confidence, having good self-esteem. Remember what I've said in the past, the greatest respect you'll ever earn is called, we're on page 43, the greatest respect you'll ever earn is called self-respect. I think this is the second lap that I did around this neighborhood, kind of by accident. Whoops, I kind of just took a wrong turn for some reason. I guess I'm into what I'm doing, right? So, I've been talking a long time about diet, and I've been talking for a long time about training. Sorry, I gotta move this around a little bit. This thing has like a microphone on it because I was trying to cut down on the wind. So hopefully the wind is better, and hopefully you can hear me a lot better. But it's hard to hold the phone. Now I need to get like one of those little socket things to put on the phone. But anyway, I've been talking a lot about nutrition, and I've been talking about what to eat and like when to eat, kind of how to eat. I gave you a lot of strategies, and I've talked about a lot of different diets. So I've given you guys a lot of tools. One of my symbols in my life that helps me get through times where I feel like a lot of things are coming at me at one time, my symbol is Bruce Lee. Because Bruce Lee used to be able to beat the shit out of anyone and everyone, and it didn't matter how many people were coming at him at one time. And why is that? And then he also was able to beat up people that were bigger and stronger looking than him. It didn't matter if it was a 7-foot-tall basketball player, or it didn't matter if it was a bunch of guys of maybe they were 50 pounds heavier than him, and there was 10 of them. He could beat all their asses, and it was because he had the skill set necessary to do so. So when I think about anxiety, when I think about depression, I think about these things that face us. I'm not taking these things lightly, by the way, and I'm not a clinician by any means, but these are things that I found have been useful for me personally. And they've also been useful for people that I've shared this with, and that's why I'm sharing this with you today. Anyway, let me get back to the point here. So I wanted to be able to Bruce Lee everything in my life. I wanted to be able to have enough skill set, not even enough skill set. I wanted to have so much skill set that it didn't matter what came my way. I could deal with it and then some, right? So I can take on anything from any direction, from anyone, anybody, or anything, because I have the knowledge or the skill to be able to defend, to be able to deflect, to be able to distract, to be able to reinterpret what's going on. And that is a massive factor in this whole thing, is something called reinterpretation. So how do you reinterpret what's going on to help build more self-confidence? Well, it's not easy, but it also isn't impossible. And it's also not that difficult. What do I personally view things that aren't, I personally view things to be simple, being things that you can actually do. So these are going to be strategies that you can actually do. And I know I've been talking a lot and I haven't said much yet. But here we go. I had to explain all that to get you to this point now. So the way I see it is, your self-esteem and your self-confidence needs to be built up. And you need to try to find an advantage. You need to get to higher ground in whatever way that you can. Whatever way that you can. Your interpretation of that might be different than mine. You hear me often talking about 10-minute walks. Well, a 10-minute walk is great. But what if you're 600 pounds? A 10-minute walk might not be in the cards because you might not be prepped for a 10-minute walk at the moment. You might have to walk to your mailbox and back. You might have to walk to the end of the road and back, or the end of your driveway and back. Whatever that will mean for you, you're going to need to find some slow, steady progress that you can, not even progress, you need to find something slow and steady that you can do with consistency. Consistency is where it's at. You've heard the quote before, I've said it many times in the past, from Jay Cutler. Don't be fancy, be consistent. Work on finding a way to be consistent. So I've talked to you guys about a carnivore diet. I've talked to you about a war on carbs. I've talked to you about a bodybuilding diet. And I've been stressing all along the mental side of it. But the mental side of things is the number one thing that will allow you to actually make progress. And without it, you can't make any progress. The thing that you need to be studying the most is not calories in, calories out, not what type of exercise you're going to do, although those things can be important. It's nice to have the skill set there too, because then it gives you more options, and maybe you can find something that you really love, and maybe it's easier to be consistent with something that you really like and enjoy. But that's just a matter of like trying shit out. That's a matter of self-exploration. That's a matter of just like messing around with some different stuff and finding what feels right and what vibes right and what works best for you. But what works best for everybody, we're all very different. But we're all very much the same. White, black, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter your skin tone, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter anything. Trying to adopt behavioral, well, sometimes your age could matter in this circumstance. But let's just talk about adults. Your behavioral modifications are going to be the things that are going to help you the most, because if you're working on behavioral modifications, this means it can only mean one thing. It can only mean that you're practicing what you're studying. So studying is great, reading is great, further education is fantastic. I think everyone's a fan of that. But what I'm not a fan of is resting on your laurels. I'm not a fan of you sitting around with your thumb up your ass, which, by the way, is a really interesting saying, right? Has anyone ever really sat around with their thumb up their ass? And why the thumb? The thickest of all fingers to be jammed right up your ass. It's really odd. Don't just stand around with your thumb up your ass. You're like, noted, okay. Cool. But literally, you want to try to figure out ways that you can be consistent every day. Let's put progress on the back burner for a second, because progress will make us feel good. It can make you feel better. But if you're expecting to make progress and you haven't really done much yet, you might find yourself feeling more sad than you did in the beginning, Because like, I'm doing this diet and I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And you lose 5 and you feel good about it, but then you fail to follow through with the rest, so you feel like a bag of shit because you didn't meet your goal, right? I wouldn't worry about goals either. I wouldn't necessarily, this has been helpful for me. If you want to write them down, you can. You want to put a time frame to them, you can. But I never found that to be all that useful. It is important to have measure. It is important to keep track of your progress, whatever way you want to do it. I personally will weigh myself often. Maybe that's not great for you. I haven't seen a piece of literature that showed one way or the other, you know, that just weighing yourself every day is a surefire way to never be fat. I've never heard anybody say that before. Therefore, that doesn't lead me to believe that that would be true. What we need to do is we need to try to find things that are going to make us feel good, things that are going to make us feel better about ourselves. You want to improve yourself for yourself. And you want to build up that self-esteem. You want to build up that self-respect. The only person you need to prove yourself to is yourself. Prove yourself to yourself and improve yourself for yourself. I want you to really think about that. Improve yourself for yourself. You're not improving yourself for anybody else. You're improving yourself for you. And then what is that progression? What is that progress that you're looking for? What is that thing that you would like to do or pursue? Investigate it. Look into it. You want to be able to run a mile? Look into getting some running shoes. Or, start doing some walk runs as I've done. You want to be able to walk for 10 minutes? Well, stand up for a while. Maybe you're so out of shape that standing for 10 minutes burns your feet and ankles and hurts your knees. That's okay. It does not matter where we're starting from. And on that note, I want you to know that the curve for your improvement and the percentage of improvement that you can make can kick my butt. That should give you some satisfaction. For example, if you weigh 350 pounds, you're going to be able to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds fairly easily. Not easily, but fairly quickly, I should say. Whereas for me, to try to lose that weight, it would be a lot harder at this point. For me to try to make the improvements that you're about to make would be very, very difficult. You might increase your bench press by 50 pounds. You might increase your squat by 20 pounds. But that's going to be that much harder for me to do it. I've been doing this stuff for 30 years. I study it. I'm into it, right? I'm here exercising while I'm talking to you guys because I never slow down. I love it. It's something that I love to do. On that note, it's important to understand that these things must match your interest levels. So if you don't like walking, you might try going on a bike. You don't like being on a bike, or you instantly throw up some excuses and say, oh man, it's too hot where I live. Whew, I live in Arizona, bro, or I live in Florida. It gets too humid to go out for walks. Well, you're going to have to work on that self-defeating dialogue that you have. That's very negative. That's very destructive. And you might want to look into, why do you speak that way? Why do you talk that way in the first place? That's not helpful. That's not going to help you make progress. You want to examine that, If you're not going to do something about something, then there's really no reason to, complaining, there's really never any reason to complain. But at least if you have a complaint, at least it's like you might do something about it. You might say, you know what? This is bullshit that I'm too fat like this. That's it. I'm going to do something about it. Otherwise, shut the fuck up, right? Seriously, shut the fuck up. Either do something about it, find a solution, or don't say anything. Continue down the path of destruction. A lot of times, though, that destructive path, unfortunately, comes from something that happened when you were young. Something that happened in a relationship somewhere, something that happened with somebody, with someone in your family. We must try to solve the problem on the level at which it exists. As a quote from David Deutsch, Oxford physicist. And some of this information that I'm kicking to you today comes from my boy James Smith. A lot of it comes from him. He's been assisting me because I'm in search of answers. I'm trying to get closer to the truth. And you can too. You can do all this yourself. You can do all this through being more aware of what's going on, to having more awareness, more self-awareness, and the building of self-esteem. You want to build up that self-esteem so powerfully that no one can knock you off your tracks. You know, like you hear people say that all the time, I got off track. Well, that's okay. It's okay for some people. It's not okay for others. And here's why. Some people know how to get right back on those tracks or build new tracks to head in a slightly different direction to still get the result that they want. So if I wanted to eat a whole pizza, I have to play it out in my head a little bit, but I can do it. I need a little bit of conversation with myself saying, okay, you know, today's Saturday. We're going to eat a pizza, watch some UFC. It's going to heighten the experience of me watching UFC, because what's better than eating pizza and watching people beat each other up? It's fantastic, right? Well, that will increase the experience a little bit. But I know how to get back on track because I've been doing this for a long time, and it's really not going to have much of a negative impact. Now, I'm also aware, my own personal experience, that even as experienced as I am with diet, that could be a really slippery slope, because Sunday morning, I'm waking up and I'm thinking about pancakes. I have that carbohydrate hangover, that cheater hangover. And I might feel bad about myself a little bit because I'm a little puffy, a little bloated. Like, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. And then I might, punish myself by fasting or working out really hard. And those aren't really positive things either. That's coercive, right? That's me trying to force something. That's me trying to, have kind of it's coming from a negative side. And trust me, when I say that, that kind of thing normally is not very sustainable. Anyway, how do you build self-esteem? How do we build self-confidence? You build self-confidence by becoming skilled at something. How do you become skilled at something that you suck at? It's going to take a lot of time. But I got to tell you something, and I'm being 100% honest right here with you right now. It's very admirable, and everyone admires it. Well, maybe not everyone. Most people will admire it. Anyone who doesn't, get them the fuck out of your life. I'm being 100% serious. It is admirable. It is admirable to start down a path that you're scared of. It is admirable to make change. It really and truly is. One of the coolest things that I ever see. I'm the guy who taught people how to bench, squat, and deadlift and stuff like that. But some of the coolest shit I ever see is when someone is scared of something and they go ahead and they figure out a way to do it anyway, because they work themselves into position to be able to do it. I've worked with my podcast producer for a long time on like deadlifting and benching and stuff, and he was scared beyond belief to even deadlift 135 pounds. I took him to a point where he deadlifted, I think, like 350 or 365, or can't remember the exact weight, but I do remember it like it was yesterday, the day that he deadlifted over 300 pounds and looked at me in complete disbelief. But seeing how proud he was in his face to me, is one of my coolest accomplishments that I've ever had in my entire life. Because it's admirable to start down a path towards something that you're not quite sure about. He had plenty of anxiety about it. He was very nervous about it, but I ensured him. I gave him more knowledge. As I gave him more knowledge, as I gave him more facts, he made more sense of it in his brain. Look, would you look at that? Okay, I went from deadlifting 135 to 155. Okay, now I'm doing 185. Now I'm doing 205. Holy crap, now I'm doing 225, right? That is how you build confidence. I say this often. The best podcast, the best interview you'll ever hear is the interview that you do with yourself. It is time that you stop listening to me. It is time that you discontinue listening to Joe Rogan. It is time that you stop listening to my podcast. You stop listening to audiobooks, and you have the tough conversations with yourself. It is important. It is a full-time job. It should be your full-time job. I've never made more money in my life until I decided to start working on myself. You want to make a lot of dough? You want to be rich? You hear me talk about be rich, be jacked, be tan. You want any of those things? All it takes is for you to work on yourself. That's all it takes. Now, it's going to take time. It's taken me decades. And I've shared this many times before too. Like, there's a lot of luck associated with all of it too. And I am going to admit, I started off ahead of the game because I have two amazing parents. Sue me or something for it, right? I don't know. Hate me for it. I don't know. I didn't choose them, but I got them, and I got very fortunate, and I took advantage of it. But I also had a brother that got addicted to drugs and died young, and had another brother that almost died from drug abuse as well. So it's still a choice. This is a choice that you can make. You can choose to stop drinking. You can choose to stop doing the drugs that you're doing. You can choose to stop partying with your friends. You can make choices and decisions right now. You have agency over your thoughts. It does not matter what's going on in the world. It doesn't matter if the coronavirus was 15 times more dangerous than it is. And it doesn't matter if it was 15 times less dangerous than it is. Before, during, after coronavirus, we've had agency over the way that we think. We don't have agency over the thoughts that enter our brain all the time, but we have agency over the way that we think about those thoughts. We might not always be in control over what we think, but we're in control 100% of how we think. It is time. The waiting is over. It is time that you thought about yourself. It is time that you thought about, how am I going to improve my life for the better? How am I going to be happier? How am I going to get through every day a little bit better? How am I going to build my self-confidence? How am I going to build my self-esteem? The greatest respect you'll ever earn is self-respect. It felt so damn good to me to go do that bodybuilding show and to get up on that stage. It felt so weird. It felt so weird and crazy and different. I will probably never do another bodybuilding show again because it was so weird. But I got to tell you, I was really proud of myself because it helped show me that I got another gear beyond what I thought I had even. And I thought I was doing pretty good. Pushing myself to 1,080 squat and 854 bench and some of these markers that were markers of success for me personally. Building a multi-million-dollar business, being a multiple patent holder, United States patent holder. You want to talk about building self-confidence? Holy shit. You know, that's might be why people perceive me sometimes as being arrogant. It's because I made an invention in a space that nobody thought they even needed the product. No one even thought they needed that product. I created a product that people didn't even know that they needed. It's not like a phone. I'm not saying it's superior to a phone. Everyone knows they need a phone. But not everybody knew they needed a slingshot. Not everybody knew they needed a hip circle in their life. Not everybody knew the benefits of knee sleeves and elbow sleeves until I showed them. That makes me feel amazing. Doesn't make me feel superior to anybody or anything like that. It just makes me feel really good. I am at peace. I am comfortable with my life. And I've mentioned this in the past too. I feel like I almost finished up life early. Not as if I don't have a lot more to do and a lot more to offer. But I feel like I finished up a lot of the nuanced shit to get myself to a point physically and financially to where I'm not worried about either one of those things. I'm not worried about my physical capacity. I am still worried about my health. I still want to work on continuing to be healthier. But I don't really feel like I need to worry about being stronger. I've discontinued that. I'm working on some running. I'm trying to build up some conditioning. I always want to be lean. I always want to be in shape. And then from a financial standpoint, I don't feel like I need to bother working ever again. But I will, because I love work. I take a lot of satisfaction in the work that I do. It makes me feel good. It helps build self-confidence. I hope that this message today was super helpful. I hope that you share this message. I hope that this message, and I hope that this day was the turning point for you. By the way, there's always some sucker with a goddamn leaf blower or weed whacker. Every single time. Everywhere you go. Years ago, I would say it pisses me off, but it doesn't. I don't allow myself to do that anymore because I got a new skill set. I got new skill sets that allow me to think about that a little bit. How dumb is it to get mad about a leaf blower? Yeah, they're loud and they're everywhere. Big deal. So what? Some gas shooting out of it and it stinks. Right? What are you going to do? What could I do? I could complain about it, which does me no good, or I can make fun of it like I did there so we can have a good laugh. Or maybe I can send an email to somebody who won't even listen to it and will probably not pay attention to it and will laugh at me as well. Anyway, I hope that you mark this day down. And I hope this is a massive turning point for you, because I hope that you understand the importance now of self-confidence and what it can do. You want to be rich, wealthy, you want to be famous, you want to be whatever, fill in the blank with whatever it is you want to be. I'm not even saying that those things are good. Careful what you wish for on any of it. You just want to be a success. You want to be a leader in something. It's going to take working on yourself. It's probably going to take a while. It's probably going to take time. But you're going to need to find the simple things in life that can help allow you to be consistent. Be consistent. Don't be fancy. Take your time with it. Don't take the short road. Take the long road. It will give you the results you want every single time, and then some. Thank you so much for listening. I really super duper pooper scooper appreciate it. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. If you found this valuable, share it out with some other people. Catch y'all later.